Thou shalt not be meek when meeting the geek. Hello, my friends, and welcome to the 226th episode of the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. When you listen to this, when it comes out January 9th, 2017, I will actually be in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, taking the whole family minus our eldest son, who's leaving today as I record this for Buenos Aires for a semester abroad. So the Schaefer 8 will be in Mobile, Alabama, visiting my papa, and then heading over to Baton Rouge for a little family reunion. So that's where I'll be. We shall pass a good time, shall let's le bon temps roulé, have us a little couchon delay. You hear me? So got to record this early, which is a good thing. That is the plan for 2017. Be a little more organized, get things done a little bit earlier. If you missed our last episode, go back to session 225, thesaleswhisperer.com/session 225. Listen to Michael Leibowitz. He is a financial advisor, and I found him when I Googled the term cognitive dissonance. And I looked that up in the fall during the election season because I was just amazed at how two people from opposite sides of the party, the political parties, can look at the same thing and come up with different results, come up with a different interpretation. And, in sales, we have a saying that a confused mind says no. So I'm always looking for examples, ways to learn, okay? Because you want to leverage other people's time, other people's money, other people's experience, other people's expertise. So if I can learn from someone else in another industry how to persuade people, how to understand how people think, then it'll help me in my own business. It'll help me in my sales training. It'll help me help my customers. So I Googled the term cognitive dissonance, and Michael was one of the first organic posts that popped up. And I liked his profile. He's an entrepreneur. I liked his story, and so I had him on. So check that out, thesaleswhisperer.com/session 225. Today we have on Mark Podolsky and Scott Todd. I was on their podcast not too long ago, and these are some cool dudes. Mark started a business called The Land Geek. Scott became a customer, and then he became a partner. And so great stories of these two that were in corporate America. They were making good money, but they were miserable. And they branched out on their own. And I'm interested in real estate. I've done deals over the years. I'm currently invested in a rehab. So, real estate is a great way to make money if you do the right thing. And these guys work just in land. And I really haven't, in all my years of looking at things and doing deals, I've purchased commercial property, I've built spec homes, I've rehabbed, dirty uglies. But these guys are doing interesting things with land. So check them out. You'll be interested in what we cover today. And you can get all the show notes and links to their websites. And my new Amazon store, where you can get their books and products, is available at thesaleswhisperer.com/session 226. That's where you can get their info. And I mentioned, the Amazon store. So over the Christmas break, I went through every episode of the Sales Podcast and looked at everyone that had a product, that had a book, had a program, and I added them to my new Amazon store. I also created a technology page where I've added everything like the microphone that I'm using, the keyboards that I use, and I'll keep adding to that as I run across things that I use in my own business. I'll add them. So then you're on Amazon anyway, so I can make a couple bucks on an order. It's a great way for you to support the podcast and not spend any more money. Okay, so just head on over to thesaleswhisperer.com/Amazon, and that will forward to the store. And just do your shopping there, okay? And really, whatever you're shopping, once you click through and you order something else that's not in my store, I still get a little bit of credit. So, hey, thank you for helping me feed the family and keep this podcast free. Because the more listeners, more subscribers, more people that order, things like that, it helps me do more with this. Now let's bring on my friends, Mark and Scott. Mark and Scott, the Land Geeks. Is it Land Geeks plural or just one Land Geek? Do you cumulatively, have you merged your mind and become the single geek? Answer that question after I say welcome to the Sales Podcast. How the heck are you?
Well.
Take that.
Very good. Very good.
See, that's what you get. You should not have had me on your show first, because now that's over. Now the gloves are off. And so you just don't know what to expect now, do you?
I think we're ready.
All right.
I'm scared. I'm in the fetal position in the corner.
Famous last. You are not in the fetal position. You're on your treadmill thingy. Okay, for those of you listening, I was on their podcast, and I've never seen this before, but Mark was on a treadmill the whole time. We did it over Zoom. We could see each other, and he was just had this nice. Are you walking right now, as a matter of fact?
Wes, I am, because sitting is the new smoking.
Sitting is the new smoking. You have great diaphragmatic, just explosion there, because you're aerobically fit, right?
I don't like to brag about it, but yes.
All right. So you are the landgeek.com, right? For our listeners that may not know who you are, what you do, would you mind give us a little 30-second or 30-minute, thumbnail sketch, and we'll dive down the rabbit hole, as I say?
Yeah. So, basically I was a really unhappy investment banker.
No.
In 2000, miserable. I had a 45-minute commute to work and back. I'm being micromanaged. I'm high pressure, long hours. I mean, Wes, I wouldn't get the Sunday blues in anticipation of Monday. I'd get the Friday blues, anticipating the weekend going by in like a blur, and then having me back at work on Monday. So our firm hires this guy, and he's telling me he's going to tax deed auctions, and he's flipping land, and he's making a 300% return on investment, flipping it online. Well, Wes, I'm looking at companies all day long. I'm doing private equity mergers and acquisitions, and a great company has 15% EBITDA margins or free cash flow, right? Great company. Average companies at 10%. I'm looking at companies all day long below 10%. So I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, the show me state. I don't believe him. So I go to New Mexico with him, and I'm buying up these half-acre parcels for $300. I've got like $3,000 saved for car repairs, right? I spend $3,000 at my first auction. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. The first piece of real estate I ever bought was my house. I'd never done anything else besides that. So I just did exactly what he said to do. I flip them online, and sure enough, I sell them all off on an average price of $1,200 each, 300%. I take all that money. I go to another tax deed auction in Arizona. Remember, this is 2000. There's no one there. And the next 3 months, I made over $90,000 on that auction. Yeah. So I say to my wife, I'm like, honey, I'm going to quit my job. I'm ready. She said, absolutely not. Right? So I did land part-time as I was working full-time. And it took me 18 months for the land investing business to exceed my investment banking income. And I've been doing it full-time ever since. I've done over 5,000 land flips. And then I started teaching people like my fellow land geek, Scott Todd, how to do what I do. And that's been really gratifying. So Scott's story is even better than mine.
Oh.
Yes. So in I guess it was about September of 2014, I'm working as a vice president of a Fortune 300 company. And my wife and I are moving to the new company headquarters because the company had relocated from New Jersey to like Southwest Florida. Mm-hmm. So we're moving. We are in the middle of building like our dream house. Like it's this thing that we've always dreamed about, and it's this remarkable house. We're right in the middle of the move. We're in temporary housing. We're about 2 months away from the house being completed. And I come home from work one day and I'm eating dinner. I flip on CNBC. And there on CNBC is Jim Cramer on his Mad Money show. And he literally starts off the show by taking the CEO of my company and putting him on the wall of shame, the CEO wall of shame, which had like one person on it, which was my CEO. And the whole first, I don't know, like 10, 15 minutes was a bash on the CEO. And remember, I'm a vice president. I work one level below the CEO. Mm. And I'm like, oh, man, we are in trouble because when this guy goes and the new guy comes, whoever it is, and they bring in their VPs, right. I'm in trouble.
Right.
So my entire wealth, everything is tied up in 401k company stock. I'm like, I can't move my kids again. I can't do this to them. And what am I going to do? And where we were, there was no other. We were the biggest company in town. There is no other companies in town. This is it. So I'm like, okay, I got to figure something out. And I started looking okay, well, what can I do with land? Because I had been doing tax lien investments on the side. All I could find was land as a tax lien investment. And I come across Mark and his podcast where he's talking about his land investing and, all of these great cash flips that he's doing and, building passive income by selling on terms. And he intrigues me. Him and I ride to work back and forth every day for weeks. And then I decide I'm going to take action and learn.
You rode to work? What are you
I'm listening to his podcast.
Oh, gotcha. All right.
He became my best friend. He literally became, I kid you not, it's like Wilson from, what's the Tom Hanks movie where they're on the island, Castaway? And all he talked to was Wilson. Well, all I did was listen to Mark on this podcast to and from work every day. We became virtual BFFs. He didn't even know I existed. And, I basically learned how to flip land or sell land, put it on terms, sell the land. And I was actually lucky because I actually replaced my income, my VP level income in 17 months and 3 days.
But who's counting?
I'm counting, Wes, because I'm very competitive.
That's right.
There you go.
So
all right. Good point.
And, basically when my company did announce that my team, 85% of my team, including me, had been outsourced to another company, I was ready. I had prepared my lifeboat. And as people were walking out sad, I'm walking out almost high-fiving, okay, I did it. I beat the man.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that was kind of recent, though, for you, right? I mean, that was 2014. You were moving, and then 17 months. I mean, that puts you well into 2015. So you've been full-time on your own for a year and a half?
March 30th was my last day in the office. And
March 30th of 2015?
2016.
Oh, wow. Okay.
This year, yeah. So since March, I've been flying on my own and loving it.
So these properties, are you going to obscure places like New Mexico, or, can I find something in hustle, bustle, Southern California?
Yes, you can.
Yeah. I mean, do you want me to walk you through the model, Wes, so you can do it?
Hey, let's do it.
All right. Let's make Wes some money, Scott.
Let's do it.
Okay. So we're going to pretend that Scott is our potential seller for your raw land, okay?
Okay. So
basically what we're looking for is this lowest hanging fruit of somebody who lives out of the state and owes back taxes, right? So you're looking at a property in New Mexico. But we see on the tax roll that Scott Todd lives in Florida and owes $1,000 in back taxes on this piece of property.
So Scott's in Florida but owns property in New Mexico.
Right. So we already know he's not emotionally attached to this property. Yep. And we know he's advertising to us he no longer values it, because if he did, he'd be paying his taxes. Correct?
Sure.
So we send him a quote-unquote top dollar offer, right? So we don't want to be in the appraisal business. So we're going to say, hey, Scott, we're interested in buying your land. We're going to say, Scott, we're interested in buying your land for $1,000, because we went online and we saw, look, the comps are $4,000, right? So we want a 300% margin for cash and over 1,000% for what we call seller financing or terms, which is, we have a podcast called The Art of Passive Income, which you were on, and the best passive income model, because if we do it on terms, now we've got this one-time sale. We have recurring passive income coming in every single month, but we don't have to deal with a renter. We don't have to deal with rehabs. We don't have to deal with renovations. We don't have to deal with rodents, right? It's like the ultimate subscription model until, your buyer pays off their note, and then you do it again and make another 1,000%. But in our situation now, we're going to send him this offer, and then this quote top dollar offer, about 30 cents on the dollar. And then Scott says, hey, look, 20 cents on the dollar is better than nothing, because I've been getting tax notices from the county's thing, I'm going to lose my property, or it's going to go to a tax lien investor.
Now,
right?
now is Scott advertising this land at $1,000 or at $4,000?
Scott is not advertising at all. He's virtually advertising to us because
he's behind on his taxes.
Right. So we send him this offer. He accepts it. Now we do our due diligence. Then we close it, right? He signs over the deed into the Sales Whisperer LLC name. Mm-hmm. Now the Sales Whisperer goes online and flips that land, or gets a down payment and gets his money out within, let's say the down, or within 6 months of the down, and then gets these automated payments using an unbelievable software program called Loan Geek, by the way, that manages your note. So it automates getting paid by your buyers, and then you just repeat it. And next thing you know, your passive income exceeds your fixed income, and now the Sales Whisperer is completely free.
So, people are going to ask, well, why is Scott sitting on land that's worth something? Why doesn't he just do a quick research and sell it for what it's worth?
Well, here's what's great about it is land is the ultimate inefficient market. And
right.
What I mean by that is that it doesn't necessarily work that way, because there's not a lot of platforms in which you can, unless you've been trained, that you can just go out there and, know what to sell. A lot of people think, okay, if I'm going to sell a property, I need a realtor. How am I going to do it? They don't know how to do it. They don't know how to prepare a deed. They don't know how to pull off the execution of it. And that's where realtors and title companies come in. But as Mark said, we're buying this $4,000 piece of land for $1,000. Well, by the time someone goes out and hires a realtor on land is not your normal 7%. They're going to take 10, 15% because it's a longer sale, typically through the realtors, because they're not marketing it. The realtors don't want it. Why? Because they want to sell houses.
Right.
They want to sell apartments, and they want to sell the big stuff. They don't want to sell land for, $4,000, $6,000, $10,000. They don't want that. So it goes in the MLS. It sits there forever and never moves.
Right.
But when it does sell, then basically, you're paying big fees. You're paying title fees, title insurance, because that's the way that the realtors know how to close transactions. Mm-hmm. So what we do is we step in and we say to the owner of the property, hey, we'll buy the land from you. We know how to close it. We'll buy it direct from you. And then we wrap the thing up, and then we put it through sale through, places like Craigslist and some of the other land advertising sites. And guess what? Because we're offering on terms and we're making it easy for people to buy from us, then they're taking action. They're buying the land from us. So we're able to fulfill, or we're able to solve that inefficient marketplace the way that we work.
Very cool. So, Mark, when you flew out to New Mexico from St. Louis, that's literally a world away, right? That is totally different. Was it in a city? Was this, land out in the country? Because, country land in New Mexico is really country land.
Yeah, actually, I was in Arizona at that time, working here. So I drove out there. But yeah, it was rural. It was in a really small town. There was like one huge employer out there. But yeah, you and me and Scott, we're probably not the market for this property. But, there's people out there called preppers that would love this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Recreational enthusiasts, hunters, fishermen, someone that wants a camp. So, there's really the nice thing about this land, because there's no restrictions, is that you don't just have to build a house on it to enjoy it. And for a lot of people, they want to just own raw land. They want something to own that's a real asset, because like Ted Turner, who's the largest landowner in the U.S., says, it's the only thing that lasts. So It's this wonderful legacy investment. And a lot of traditional real estate people can't wrap their head around the fact that we have this massive market, right? You don't go on HGTV or the DIY network and see Flip This Land. It makes horrible TV, but there is a market for it.
Right. So, all right, that's cool. I'm going to have to turn this recording off and then ask some really good questions. But But so you're making good money. I mean, Scott, you're replacing VP money. Mark, you're replacing investment banker money. Why do a podcast? Why do anything? I mean, it seemed like you could flip some property, before lunchtime and go chill the rest of the day.
Wes, you sound like my wife. So I told her that this guy, years ago, before I started Land Geek, contacts me and says, "Hey, I want to learn what you're doing." I said, "Well, I don't teach it necessarily." And then he said, "Well, why not?" I said, I don't know. I wouldn't even know what to charge you. So he threw out a number at me. And I said, "Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'll teach you then." So my wife says, "Well, look, if you teach everybody how to do this, right, you're going to destroy your own market. You're going to create your own competition, and you're going to kill the golden goose." And I thought for a second, like, well, let's do the math and just determine it before I go ahead and teach. So, like any good capitalist, right? So there's 3,007 counties. There are billions of acres of land. And then I'm looking at myself. I'm like, okay, well, how much of that billion acres can I buy, right? Okay, how much of those billion acres can a community of land investors buy? And it turns out that after crunching the numbers, there is so much deal flow out there that you, me, 1 million, 10 million people in this niche, we'll all run out of money before we run out of deal flow. So, and there's nothing more gratifying. And Wes, you could probably, attest to this because of your podcast, right? Like when I've been flipping raw land for all these years, nobody ever said to me, "Hey, Mark, you changed my life. Thank you so much with that raw land purchase."
Right.
Like it helped 5 people, helped myself and my wife.
I don't know. You helped Scott.
But no, now Land Geek is different. That's the education company.
Right.
And now I've got people saying, "Hey, like Jeff Axton, he makes more money part-time working 2 hours a day on his land investing business than he does as a full-time firefighter. He's making over $10,000 a month passive income." Scott, Todd, like I can die in peace now knowing that I made a difference in people's lives where, that piece was kind of missing from my life. And really selfishly, the podcast, I get to meet, really interesting, cool, smart people like yourself. And the collective intelligence just grows, and it makes us better investors and better human beings.
Right.
And I think being able to make any kind of difference in the world and any impact like that is way more gratifying than kind of having the scarcity mentality. Like, no, it's all mine.
Very nice. I like it. So when did this guy ask you to train him?
2012, I believe.
Oh, okay. So not too long ago. So was it just one-on-one? Like, was he like in person, or was it over the phone and email? How did you do that first one?
Yeah, all virtual via Skype. And we just recorded the calls, transcribed them. Then next thing you know, I'm like, hey, I can help other people with this and create a course.
So walk us through that, because that's some of the nitty gritty. Although I'm sure our listeners, and I want to learn more about real estate investing, but these nuances, of launching a business that I like getting into.
Sure. I mean, it's just like anything else where you give and give and give, and then you ask, right? So the model was basically, hey, here's all these videos I created teaching people how to do what I do. And what we've learned is that the more information you give, the more people want, right? So we said, hey, by the way, if you want this in a systematic fashion, here's a product that you can invest in called the Investor's Toolkit, and it'll walk you through the big, 5 phases of our business, right? And then from there, people wanted more information. So they wanted one-on-one coaching. So we started doing the one-on-one coaching as well. And then it's created, additional types of, information products, such as a mastermind group, flight school, which Scott actually leads, and boot camps, live 2.5-day training as well.
Right.
So from that part, I mean, it's a lot of fun. I wouldn't say but from an entrepreneurial standpoint, it's one of those interesting businesses that really can help people in the sense that, here's this sort of unloved real estate niche, and and some geeky guy teaching it, right? Mm-hmm. And so, but the way that we do it again is just we teach it, and then if it connects with people, then they want more information, and we offer that.
So what were the videos? Were you just teaching like from your desk and doing screen shares and uploading to YouTube, or how were you doing that early work?
Scott, do you remember my early videos?
Oh, they were terrible, man.
Are you saying he has a face for radio? Is that what you're saying, Scott?
No, but you know what Mark did. Here's what he did. That really just shows. It just shows the kind of what you have to do, and that is that he wasn't good on camera, and he didn't let that stop him. He did the best. When you go back and look at these videos, the sound is bad. He's wearing this big microphone that he has, attached to his shirt, and over time he got better with technology. He got more comfortable in front of the camera. It's just like, I'm sure when you started your podcast, if people went back and listened to the very first episode, they'd be like, I can't believe Wes sounds like this. But you get better, you find your voice,
right?
And that's really what Mark did. Is he, Mark always says, embrace the suck, and that's what he did. He realized that, okay, I'm going to lean into this. I'm going to just do it. I'm going to put it out there, and I will get better over time. He took action, and basically he did what I always say, which is move your feet. Don't let the things that you don't know how to do or the things that get in your way stop you. Just keep plowing forward, because in the end, you'll get better at what you're doing.
Well, and so were you just filming yourself, though, just like explaining a technique?
Yeah. I would go in my backyard, and I'd put my camera on a tripod. Or I'd be in my office and I'd put it up on a tripod and I would just start talking about different aspects of the business, how to do something, and then I'd upload it to YouTube, and then from there I did like an AWeber automated email campaign saying, hey, watch these videos, and oh, by the way, if you want some more information, click here. We have a step-by-step course that'll save you a lot of time, right? And then from there, the podcast, we just kept giving information, giving.
Right. And then when do you think you hit your stride? I mean, as far as bringing technology together, bringing a website together, a podcast, because, things seem to be firing on all cylinders now, but this seems to be relatively recent, right? 2012, that's barely 4 years, maybe 5 years at most. And, Scott, you've only been with him for, a year?
Well, October 28th, 2014. So just over 2 years now. I've been.
Well, you were a student, but did you partner with them as well?
Probably about, Mark, about 15, 16 months ago, somewhere in that range.
Yeah. We started the podcast and doing that together. And Scott leads all the coaches and the coaching team. So he's an integral part of Land Geek for sure. And other ancillary businesses as well. So,
I'm just interested in how it scales, right? Because people, I like to, like in sales, right? I like to eliminate the objections. I know I'm going to have a listener like, oh, well, of course they made it because, Mark's got this good partner, Scott, and they're both very analytical, and they were rich to begin with because they were investment bankers and VPs. And so, oh, woe is me, I can't emulate this. Yeah. So I like to just take that away and say, yeah, you just put up a tripod, and today nobody has an excuse, right? I do almost all of my filming just with a smartphone and a little $10 tripod thingamaboppy, and right to YouTube, free. Most websites, super cheap, right? You can get a Bluehost account for $4 a month, buy a $40 WordPress theme, and you got a website. AWeber is only $19 a month, and MailChimp's free. So is there anything in there? I'm not hearing anything very complex. It sounds like you had great information and put yourself out there.
Hey, Wes. Yeah. I was going to say, Mark, Wes, my, I don't know, about 2 months ago, 2.5 months ago, my nephew sees what I'm doing. He basically tells me that he was in a very similar boat to me. Like, hey, I just found out that, my job's going to be eliminated. And I'm like, and he said, well, I'm going to go do this, fix and flip stuff. And I'm like, oh, don't do that. That's a mistake. And I explained the model to him, and he's like, okay, teach me. So he basically starts digging into the information, same information that I had. And, he starts mailing out his offers. And I don't know, 2 weeks later, he literally calls me. He's just ecstatic because he's like, man, I offered, like $100 for an acre of land, and they accepted it. What do I do now? And so I kind of walk him through it. And then, I don't know, about 2 weeks after that, he calls me up and he goes, I got another acre of land, and the lady won't even let me pay for it. She's giving it to me for $1. I told her I had to pay $1 for it. So he picks up another acre of land for $1. So, like, if you have $1, okay, like if you have $1 in your pocket, yes, you can buy land. I've seen it happen. I mean, I've been given land for $1 because the taxes are high, and guess what? You don't have to race out and pay the taxes. You go out there and you sell the property. You get someone else who is buying the property from you to start paying you, and then you pay the taxes from that. I mean, it's a very simple model. The only limitation that you're going to have, and I think this is the case with everything in life, the only limitation you have is if you don't think that you can do it or say you can't do it, then you won't do it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Zano came to me $40,000 in debt, pays off his $40,000 in debt, makes $60,000 cash, working part time on the side, and pays for his wedding cash, gets out of debt, and now I think he's going to do like over 100 this year. So here's a guy who's a firefighter and just took action.
Right. Yep.
And a lot of it is, hey, I have to know somebody that also can do it, that's relatable, because his buddy was Jeff Axton that I trained. So Jeff's like, hey, he's different Boston, by the way. He's like, yeah, Mike, this is what I'm doing. That's a horrible Boston accent. Go park the car. But he's like,
that sounded like more like Jersey, tough guy.
Jersey, yeah, it's terrible. But he just took action, like what Scott said. And I remember Scott was showing me this deal. He's like, oh, Mark, I made a huge mistake. He actually literally bought in a mud pit, right? Like, I'm like, like out of 5,000 deals, like it's crazy. Like, I'm like, I've never bought in a mud pit. So Scott, tell us what happens after you buy the mud pit.
Yeah, so I buy this mud pit, man, and literally, like, I'm trying to sell it, and the guy that had previously bought property from me, I call him first, and I'm like, hey, you told me you wanted more property in the area. He's like, yeah, what's the address? I tell him. He's like, oh, dude, no. Please tell me you didn't buy it. I'm like, yeah, I own it. He's like, I'm going to go get you some pictures. I'm like, okay. So, because I'm buying these things sight unseen. So he goes out, and he calls me up, and he's like, dude, you bought a mud pit. And I'm like, oh, great. And so I'm like, okay. So I start advertising it, and this guy calls me up, and he's like, hey, I'm going to go out there over the weekend. It's a Friday. I'm going to go out there over the weekend. I'm going to look at it. If I like it, I'm going to buy it. I'm like, okay, well, why don't you give me a down payment now? In case someone comes, he's like, no, I got to see this thing first. And I'm like, okay. So he goes out there, and on Monday morning, he calls me, and he goes, hey. I'm like, yeah. He's like, I went out and looked at it. And I'm like, oh, God, here it comes. And he goes, I love it. When can we meet to close the sale? And I'm like, when do you want to meet? He's like, well, let's meet on Wednesday. And he was local to me and everything. And I'm like, okay, well, let's meet on Wednesday. So we meet, we close the sale. And I'm like, he gives me the cashier's check. I give him the deed. And I'm like, hey, man, I got to ask you something. What are you going to do with this property? He's like, I'll send you a video. And I'm like, okay. So I don't know, about less than a week later, he sends me a video. And it's him and his buddies, and they're riding around on the property with their ATVs. They're going mudding on their own property. Mm-hmm. And that's what he wanted the property for, right?
And where was this?
This was in Florida.
Florida, okay.
So, that's the thing is like, okay, even if I make a mistake, then I have to find the best use of the property And there is a pig for every barn. It's not for you and I. I mean, I wouldn't buy that property. I'd be like,
I would buy it.
Right. But you know what? The guy wanted it for a reason, because that's a big ATV area, which I didn't know at the time. It's a big ATV area. And then what he did was, he wanted a place that they could go out and call their own.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you see is that, if you look in the records of this country, well, every piece of property has an owner. I've never found one piece of property that says no owner. There's always a property owner, so someone will always buy the property.
Right. Well, I always tell my clients that you are not your client.
That's right.
Right? So whatever you like, you like wine or they like beer. You like classical music, they like hard rock. That you don't want a muddy swamp for land, and these guys want to roll around in it. And, hell, I live here in Southern California. It's like, you need to get a permit to go get a permit. And so I would buy some muddy land to be able to ride quads and dirt bikes and shoot guns and, just say, get off my land, people. I'm going to do what I want to do. And so, that's a great case in point. So I love it.
Yeah. What's so funny is, Scott and I, after having you on the podcast, we did a mastermind group, and we asked, hey, what's your pain point? And a lot of it was just selling, right? Because they've got the deal flow down, they've got the due diligence down, they've got the marketing down, but then when they got to get them on the phone, Wes, and close the deal, right?
They're all desperate, crazy.
They freeze up, and then we kind of talked about the script and Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt, and then we talked about Jimmy Fallon, and and having and combining these two things, and like the light bulb went off, right? It was great. It was
cool.
Great.
Yeah, just stay calm, right? But, I mean, and I'm sure you've seen this 1,000 times, both of you going through this, but, you make your money going in, right? Yep. I mean, you got to be picky. I'm always telling people, we have to choose who to lose. Our job as salespeople is to disqualify. And, in your case, it may be a little easier because you can just see the land and the value. But I'm always telling, my clients that our job as salespeople is not to sell, believe it or not, it's to prospect. And the job of prospecting is to sort, sift, and separate. If I have an auto repair shop and I got a great deal on new Michelins and I can sell them at 70% off, but you are driving, you pull in for an oil change and you just got new tires at Costco, you're not my prospect, right? Even though they're 70% off. So, but most people, they'll spend all their time. Oh, no, Scott, man, these are great. These are Michelins, man. They're 70% off. You should buy them and store them. He's going to hound you instead of just going to the next person. So, choose who to lose, man.
I'm writing that down right now.
Choose who to lose. I love it.
Well, heck, I wrote down there's a pig for every barn. So we can embrace the suck and move your feet. So I'm typing quietly as y'all are speaking. So that's good stuff.
And I just registered the domain wesschaferscliches.com.
Very nice. Just send me a residual. It's all good. My agent will be in touch.
Excellent, Smithers.
So what's next, man? What's going on? Now that Trump's in office, are y'all going to just take over, and create the land apprentice?
Scott,
that's a great idea, man. That's a great idea. I'm writing that one down right now.
That's not bad. That's not bad. I think Scott and I are waiting for our tax, our tax break, but now we're thinking about maybe starting a TV show, Flipping Dirt. I don't know.
Yeah.
There you go. So, Mark, you're in the Phoenix area, right?
Correct.
Very cool. And Scott, where are you?
Tampa, Florida.
Oh, very nice. Well, I come to Phoenix often, so I'll look you up, Mark. And Scott, every January, I'll send you some info. I do a swim, the Tampa Bay Frogman Swim, to raise money for the Navy SEAL Foundation.
Oh, yeah.
And so we'll be swimming across Tampa Bay here. Let me bust out my calendar. Where? January, so the 15th. So set your alarm, get your butt up early, get out there about 6 a.m. They do They read the names of all the fallen seals since the last time, and then we swim across the bay, and then we drink beer.
Wow, sounds fun.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
I'll let you know. But I've got links to a couple of places. Where should we send people? And I'll have notes and everything and link to you. I've got the landgeek.com. Where else? Should I just send people there and then find your podcast from there?
Yeah, I mean, or the Art of Passive Income podcast.
Okay.
Scott's got landmodo.com.
How do you spell Modo?
MODO.
Landmodo. And what is that? What is Modo?
There's a little website called Gizmodo. It's all about gadgets and gadgets.
Yeah, sure.
And when I was starting land, I liked Gizmodo, so I'm like, I'll do Landmodo. Let's see how it works out.
Very cool. So
Wes, if someone wants to learn more about me, they can go to scotttodd.net. It's the .net, not the .com.
Okay.
Net.
How did y'all decide to? How do you decide what to work on together and what to work on separately? Because, Mark, you had your own brand and thing flowing, and then Scott comes in. I know it's great to have a good partner, but then you still have your separate things. How do y'all keep that in sync?
I don't know. We just kind of do it. We just look at it and say, hey, win-win, win-win-win. I have abundance mentality. So, anything that I'm doing, and, Scott's a genius. So there's very few things in life where you think to yourself, boy, a genius wouldn't be helpful here.
Right.
So...
Well, it's a nice compliment. I don't know about the genius part, but I'll take it. Okay, I appreciate that. I think that from my own perspective, when I started with Mark, I owe a lot. I really owe a lot to Mark because when I don't know that I would be in the situation I am right now had I not learn. If Mark wasn't putting out the great information, the great content that he was doing, if he wasn't dedicated to helping people change their lives, I don't know what I'd be doing, man. I'd be sitting in another office somewhere, probably not enjoying life. Whereas today, I've got a lot of freedom. And so, I come to work with Mark in terms of helping people to change their lives or transform their lives. And I do it because I know firsthand what it can do to people. And Mark has been on this mission to help other people. He wants to be the pebble in the pond. And if I can just help him to facilitate that, then that gives me a level of fulfillment that I don't know that I could get in any corporate job or anything. Yeah. So I come to Mark with a level of respect in the fact that he has built this brand, the Land Geek. And, that's his baby. That's his brand. He's on a mission to help other people. And if I can just pitch in and help him do that, then phenomenal. I'm repaying back to him and I guess paying it forward. And then we've created, through that relationship, we've created other opportunities to work on things that are outside of Land Geek. But, it's all good. Yep. And I think we have a good flow there.
Very nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Mark, I know you're up against a hard stop. I just wanted to pick that one little area a little bit more, but I will link to everything. So the landgeek.com, landmodo.com, scotttodd.net, and more will all be linked to, and I will be following up as well. This interests me a good bit, so I'm glad I had you on the show, and I got to learn more about what you do. So, gentlemen,
Wes Schaefer, thank you so much.
Hey, my pleasure. Y'all have a great day.
You too. I'm going to be whispering the rest of the day to my family and friends, and they're going to be like,
"I whisper." Okay.
Yeah, but we've talked to the whisperer, so I get to whisper.
That's true. You could say, I don't know. It could be kind of weird. You could say, "Touch my mouth." You could say, "Touch my ears," because this headset was on my ear as the sales whisperer whispered into it. So it'd be kind of like Michael Jackson's glove, kind of in a way.
Right. I mean, isn't there like a math formula, like the cumulative property? Is that getting too geeky?
Hey, when I come see you, and I'm in Phoenix, and when I'm in Tampa, I will sign your laptop. Okay, I'll just give me a Sharpie, and I'll sign it, and that'll be worth something one day.
I just want you to whisper something audio, and I can just play it again and again.
I'm a giver. I'll do that. All right, but on a separate episode.
Right. Disqualify.
Now listen there, damn it. There's a pig for every barn. That's what I'm saying. Now move your feet. If you got time to lean, you got time to clean. That's what I say.
Wes Schaefer, thanks so much, Scott. I'll see you later. Thanks.
All right, man. Have a great day.
Thanks, Wes.
What do you think, huh? I love the fact that these guys are just so down to earth and honest about their background and how things evolved, right? They just got started. They heard something. They thought maybe it was too good to be true, but they explored, they tested it, they proved it, and they kept moving forward. And I love, Mark's story. He wasn't planning on teaching this, but somebody threw a lot of money at him, and so he dove in. He started his videos despite not being good on camera, right? He did his best. The sound was bad. He wore a big mic attached to his shirt. Embrace the suck. I love it. The following weekend, after I release this, I'll be heading out to Tampa Bay for the Tampa Bay Frogman Swim. We raise money for the Navy SEALs, for the families of fallen Navy SEALs. They always say that the only easy day was yesterday. And by the way, if you would like to donate, and I know you would, I know you want to help the families, right? Head on over to helpwesswim.org. And on every episode on the show notes is a link as well to the Tampa Bay Frogman Swim. This will be my 3rd year doing it, 4th year donating. So please help me raise money for these families. But, I like what he said, embrace the suck, move your feet, get going. So whatever it is, whatever you're working on, you have to be willing to be bad before you can get good. But you have to want it bad enough to endure the badness. Okay, that's true. I just re-recorded the intro to episode number 1. So that goes all the way back to May 2013. And it's totally different than what I do now. I think we did it on a phone call as well. I don't think I was using Skype and call recorder. The quality wasn't as good, at different music. And so I re-recorded the intro, but kept the original, just did a new updated intro at the beginning. And but I didn't want to change what I originally did so you can see how I've evolved. But I made that change because it's still the number 1 downloaded episode. And I realized, people will go back to number 1 when they find a podcast just to see what it's all about. Even though I think you should really check the most recent one, because then you can see what I would assume is their best work, right? But I realize I'm missing an opportunity. If people go back 3.5 years and judge the podcast based on that quality and effort, they may not stick around, right? It wasn't my best foot forward. It was my best foot at the time, but not what I can do now. So I re-recorded that to give people a little bit of a taste, a little overview, welcome them, currently, so they know what they're getting into and what's in store. So it's a little nugget for you there as well. If you're thinking of launching a podcast, stick with it, embrace the suck, move your feet. So a lot of lessons there we can learn. So I really appreciate these guys coming on. Like I said, every episode, if you just go to thesaleswhisperer.com/session and then the number, you can get the notes. So this one is session 226. And as I mentioned on the last episode, I've got a sponsor. When I really started growing was when I got an assistant. And I still have Anna out in the Philippines. I use her from time to time, but I had her full-time, 40 hours a week for years. Okay, but now I have VA staffer. Jay and his team. Jay is here in Northern California. He's got an office manager, a project manager out in the Bahamas, and he's got a team in the Philippines. He flies out and meets with a couple times a year. So these are real people. And I know Jay. I've had many calls with his team. They've been supporting me for months. But he is offering for listeners of the Sales Podcast 4 free hours for them to work on anything you need help with. And then if you end up retaining them, you get $100 off your first setup. So head on over to thesaleswhisperer.com/VA staffer. So it stands for virtual assistant, VA staffer. And 4 free hours, they're not going to pester you. They're not going to spam you. Okay, they'll reach out. Probably Kavika will reach out and get you set up, see what you need help on. They'll log you into the project management tool, and you'll get to work. Right? And I'm telling you, stop majoring in the minors. Don't tell me you can't afford some help. I'm telling you, you can't afford the help because you haven't gotten help. Once you get help, you'll be amazed at how much more you get done, how much more you can afford. Okay, so thesaleswhisperer.com/VA staffer. And I also mentioned last week, and I do not have a special offer right now. I'm working on some things. But if you want to be notified of promo codes for discounts on various things I'm working on that will only go out to podcast listeners, head on over to your cell phone, okay? And the number you want to text to is 44222. If you text the word WHISPER, 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 to 44222, you'll be on a special list that I will send out offers for, okay? And maybe it's Amazon offers when they run things. Maybe it's on my books and CDs, my coaching programs, whatever. But it'll be special offers only for podcast listeners, okay? So 44222, and just text the word WHISPER. You'll get a thank you note, and that's it up front, okay? But then you'll be ready to receive. So, hey, thanks for listening. Please leave a comment, share this, leave a 5-star review on iTunes, and remember to always sell different.